Reading too much into the early portion of the season can be foolish, but there are times when you can watch a team early in the year and just sense something's not right. Enter the Boston Celtics, who are definitely not right through a few weeks of the 2021-2022 campaign.
They just acted like they had been here before. Wow, this is I've never seen a turnaround like this before, Mike.
Boston has plenty of time to right the ship, but this also might just be the beginning of the end for this version of the Celtics. And it might be time to start seriously considering how to reshape this team. The Celtics got off to a wretched start on both ends of the court, but their defense has mostly corrected itself, as was evident in a statement win at Miami in which the Celts held the Heat to 78 points. Marcus Smart's stout perimeter defense and the combined length of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the improving Robert Williams provide encouraging defensive upside. But the biggest reason Boston's D should hold up is the Beantown return of Al Horford. Defensively at least, Horford has been as good as ever through nearly a month of the new season, averaging a league-leading 3 blocks per game while seemingly being in the right place at the right time all the time. The flip side to this equation, however, is that a perennial playoff contender with 2 young stars at the top of its roster has to come to grips with the fact that through an uneven start to the season, its best and most consistent two-way player is its 35-year-old center.
Not ideal.
The real issue for the Celtics is on the offensive end. After 3 straight years of boasting a top 10 attack, the Celtics have been one of the 10 least efficient teams this year. There are a number of reasons why. For one, whether it's the fault of rookie head coach Ime Udoka and his staff, or the blame lies on the players for their execution, the team's game plan just seems clunky. Most possessions waste away going nowhere, without the Celtics creating any advantages, which is why few teams this season have seen a greater share of their shot attempts come in the last 4 seconds of the shot clock. Rightly or wrongly, that could also help explain why Tatum, Brown, and new Celtic Dennis Schroeder feel the need to burn so many possessions in isolation. Tatum and Schroeder both rank in the top 15 league-wide when it comes to ISO frequency, and Boston as a team ends possessions in isolation more than any squad outside of Brooklyn. The difference is that a Nets team led by Kevin Durant and James Harden scores incredibly efficiently in isolation. The Celtics do not. Brown has actually been pretty efficient going one-on-one this year, but it's unlikely a player who historically produces around 0.8 points per ISO possession can keep this up, and it's quite frankly unwise for him to be ISOing this much. Schroeder and Tatum, who remember are ISOing at a top 15 frequency rate, are scoring at efficiency levels nowhere near good enough to justify that. The pair ranks 49th and 50th respectively, or maybe disrespectfully, in ISO efficiency among the 60 most ISO-heavy players. The up and down play of Brown and Tatum especially has been an early season cause for concern, with things coming to a boiling point following a nasty fourth quarter collapse to the Bulls, in which Boston blew a 14-point lead at home in the final frame, was outscored 39-11 in that fourth Q, and failed to grab a single defensive rebound. Following that disastrous result, Smart had this to say.
And like I said, for me, I can only do so much with just standing in the corner, or every team knows we're trying to go to Jason and Jaylen. And every team is programmed and studied to stop Jason and Jaylen. They don't want to pass the ball. And that's something that they're going to learn. They're still learning, and we're proud of the progress they're making, but they're going to have to make another step and find ways to not only create for themselves, but create for others on this team.
Never mind that Smart himself is definitely not the shooter you want Tatum or Brown deferring to. He has a point. The loss to Chicago and Smart's public comments prompted a players-only meeting in the 3rd week of the season, after Brown followed up 46 and 30-point performances with 9 and 13-point outings during opening week. Udoka called the contrast in Jaylen's performances mind-boggling. So yes, it may be early, but there are some clear signs of dysfunction here that are impossible to ignore.
It feels like we're falling apart.
It is worth keeping in mind that Brown has admitted he hasn't fully recovered physically from a bout with COVID just last month. Tatum discussed needing a puffer last spring to deal with the effects of his COVID spell, and no one knows how athletes will be affected long term. Strictly speaking from a stylistic point of view, however, it's time to consider how compatible the Tatum-Brown duo still is. It was one thing when the Celtics had an abundance of shot creators with Tatum, Brown, Gordon Hayward, and Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving in the fold, as that multitude of creators would simply overwhelm most teams. But with Irving, Hayward, and Walker now long gone, and nothing to show for those departures save for Horford's return and some middling draft picks, the long-term viability of a Tatum-Brown combo is a lot murkier. In addition, all those years of what might be when it comes to Boston's treasure chest of draft capital have given way to what this is. Former Celtics GM Danny Ainge's penchant for coming up just short when it came to going all in for superstars has left the Celtics here. The new front office, led by former head coach Brad Stevens, still has all of its first-rounders to play with, but the Celtics no longer have any extra firsts. When it comes to young talent not named Tatum or Brown, Williams plus Peyton Richard, Grant Williams, and Aaron Nesmith have value. But you're not constructing a blockbuster trade using only those guys, a mediocre veteran, and some picks. And between Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Williams, the team also already has more than $91 million committed for the 2023-2024 season. So free agency isn't going to be the path back to the promised land either, for a legacy franchise that's won 17 championships, but just one title in the last 35 years. Having both of Tatum and Brown is a great starting point most franchises would kill for. And you can win with Tatum and Brown if there's another star around. But the Celtics no longer have a realistic way to land another star without one of Tatum or Brown going the other way.
All right, I think I follow.
The question then becomes, how do you trade one of those guys and get better, or at least closer to true title contention? It starts with picking one of the two to keep, and to me, the easy answer is Tatum. Sure, Brown's off to a better start this year, but Tatum's the better overall player. He's 2 years younger, he's longer, he can carry a heavier load and do more offensively, and he's got the higher defensive upside. He's also under team control for an extra year, with a player option that can make it 2 extra years. Brown still possesses mammoth trade value. He's a 25-year-old all-star who plays both ends of the court, is locked up through 2024, and makes the kind of money that can help the Celtics match salary in a trade for an even better star. Put Brown on the table with one of those aforementioned youngsters and multiple picks, and now you put yourself in the conversation to land the next available superstar. Both when it comes to balancing this roster and to maximizing Tatum's potential, the best possible outcome for Boston would be acquiring a game-changing point guard, who would prevent Tatum from having to initiate the offense as often as the Celtics currently ask him to. I know Damian Lillard continues to tell us he has 10 toes in Rip City, but if another Blazers season goes off the rails, would he really be against forming a contending level partnership with Tatum in Boston? Bradley Beal's not a true point guard, and the Wizards are off to a better start than the Celtics. But he's a more natural initiator than Brown. The Celtics would at least inch closer to contention with Beal in the fold, and Brown could help spearhead a true rebuild in DC. Individual offensive concerns notwithstanding, how would Ben Simmons' playmaking, defense, and ability to get the Celtics running look in Boston? Is that a better fit? Is Simmons even a better player than Brown at this point? Look, there probably isn't a perfect solution here, but standing pat as a middling team with no clear path to significant improvement while Brown and then Tatum play out the remainder of their contracts isn't a great option either. So, early? Yes. But seeing the writing on the wall now, before those walls come crumbling down, is better than ignoring the obvious. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.